Now that we looked at the role of prices in an economy, let's look at the role of profit and loss in an economy. First, starting with profit. Profit is the revenue that a firm earns minus the cost of production. But what it really is, what role it serves in an economy, in the market process, is it's evidence that consumers are receiving value from the good or service, that people are willing to pay more for that good or service than it costs to produce it. And what it does is profit encourages firms to continue to produce that good or service and to offer more of it, to shift some of their resources from other lines of production to what consumers really want, and it encourages other firms to offer that product. I think the best example, the most salient example from over the past year has been the emergence of the hard seltzers. So originally White Claws and Trulies, they were two of like the original hard seltzers that have been around for a few years, but they weren't extremely popular. Suddenly last spring and summer, seemingly out of nowhere, the demand for hard seltzers skyrocketed. White Claws and Trulies earned the firms that produce them a substantial profit, encouraging them to produce even more because people could not, just get enough of these hard seltzers. It also encouraged other firms to begin to produce hard seltzers. So you see, I have some examples here: Bud Light, Natty Light, Four Loko, even Corona's coming out with a hard seltzer now, although it might not be the best timing with the coronavirus. Other firms seeing the original firms profiting, that signals to them that these original firms are meeting a consumer need, and that if they would offer those goods or services, in this case, if they make a hard seltzer, they can earn a profit themselves. On the other hand, loss has the exact opposite effect. So obviously the loss is earning a negative profit. It's when the costs of production are greater than the revenue that a firm earns for a product. This discourages firms from selling a good or a service, and it redirects those resources to a better usage. Obviously, because firms have a hard budget constraint, they're unable to produce goods at a loss for a long time. Eventually, they'll have to go bankrupt, they'll go out of business. Because they cannot withstand that, when a product line earns a loss for a firm, they have to redirect those resources to a better usage, somewhere where they can actually earn a profit, or at least break even. So while this process is painful, it improves the economy and it helps people get more of what they actually need. It signals firms that, hey, this good that you're trying to sell is not what consumers want, and then it has that incentive, it encourages them or forces them to make a better usage of those resources. Maybe they're just making the product better, maybe they're switching to a different product completely. And I have some examples on this slide of some old products that ended up not working out. First is the Ford Edsel. If you like cars from the 50s and 60s, you remember the story that Ford made this car, this giant car that was so unpopular, it ushered in the first small car craze. Another example is New Coke. Coke comes out with this new product, a new version of Coca-Cola, that consumers hated, and they ended up having to go back to the original recipe, the older recipe that they were using. Another example is the Wow chips from Lay's. It had lower fat than other chips because they used larger fat molecules, which ended up upsetting people's stomachs when they ate it. So it had a terrible side effect, even though it was quote-unquote healthier. The last example is one of the Samsung Galaxies that had trouble with exploding when it got too hot. Obviously, people aren't going to buy cell phones that are going to, explode and endanger their lives. So Samsung was encouraged to, or you could say forced, because of the hard budget constraint, to redirect those resources into a better product to try to improve that Galaxy, or forget about that Galaxy, move on to the next one or to different lines of phones. Use the resources there because people will be more willing to buy those safer, better phones. Now, what profit does is provide the incentive for reallocating resources to the highest valued uses. Because firms are trying to earn the highest profit possible, they're always looking for ways to increase their profit. So they'll move resources from a less profitable line or a line that's earning a loss to a more profitable line of products. Profit encourages the discovery of new opportunities for the most useful employment of scarce resources. Not only are firms trying to shift resources towards what is now the most profitable, they're looking for new avenues, totally new things that can earn them a higher profit. These existing opportunities for profit are ignored not because people don't want to do as well as possible, but it's because of a lack of knowledge. There's a lot of problems that we can't solve yet because we don't know how to, we don't know what they are. But the second we're able to figure it out and start offering, whatever product we can with that new knowledge, we can then, whoever is doing, whatever entrepreneur, whatever firm is doing, can then earn a profit and be successful. So knowledge is discovered and then acted upon. Remember, it's costly to acquire. It's a difficult process. That's why we don't have more knowledge. We don't understand exactly what consumer wants or the best way to be able to create that product. Because of this lack of knowledge, it's a difficult, long process of learning this stuff. The market suffers from shortcomings. However, it still generates the optimal outcomes or the best possible outcomes. This is the best scenario given the lack of knowledge present in the world. The market encourages more knowledge to be generated as firms and entrepreneurs seek to get the greatest profit that they possibly can. Profit and loss, this mechanism forces individuals and firms to behave as if they are seeking to maximize profit, because the firms must profit to stay in business. Imperfect people, whether they're entrepreneurs or they're acting within a firm making decisions, can make these business decisions for many different reasons. It could be that they have knowledge that nobody else has. It could be that they're more intelligent than other people. It could be they're better at reading trends, or it could be random decisions. They could make decisions for say, sentimental reasons, or maybe for luck. Be totally random. All that matters is if they're meeting consumer needs. The market rewards those good decisions, the ones that meet consumer needs, and it punishes the decisions that do not meet consumer needs. So entrepreneurs learn over time, and they adapt successful strategies. So those firms and entrepreneurs that are successful, they earn a greater profit. Other firms, other entrepreneurs that see that, adapt those strategies and move the market in that direction. So here is the market process in action. The market generates alternatives. There's many alternatives, many different products being produced, many different ways to produce them, price points to sell at, whatever. There's a million different ways. The market not only generates those alternatives of everyone trying to do the best they can, it includes the criteria for judging those alternatives. So which ones are successful, which ones meet consumer needs, and which ones do not meet consumer needs. The market then incentivizes, through the profit and loss, incentivizes the continuation of successful alternatives. So those things, those products, services, goods that meet consumer needs, it incentivizes their continuation. And it eliminates the failed alternatives, those goods or services that do not meet consumer needs as well, forced out of the market, and encourages the resources that are being used for those products to be used for the successful products that do meet consumer needs. A hard budget constraint forces underperforming firms out of the market, and their resources can be used by successful firms that are meeting consumer needs. Or those unsuccessful firms have to change, adapt the strategies of successful firms and successful entrepreneurs. Now, this process is called creative destruction, where these new products, ideas, and firms destroy the old products, ideas, and firms. It can be a painful process, people losing their jobs, the struggle of trying to determine what products are good, whether this change you made, it can be stressful in the meantime until you figure out whether consumers like the product or not. But in the long run, it's the best way to encourage people and entrepreneurs, firms, to meet consumer needs in the best way possible. Capitalism's Tough Love, the real lessons from the fall of Sears and GE. This is an article from about a year and a half ago, talking about how Sears and GE were in serious financial troubles. These are former titans of U.S. industry. These were some of the largest companies, most successful companies in the United States. In October 2018, Sears went bankrupt. They declared bankruptcy. Sears is the Amazon of its time. Originally, it was a mail order service to like a general store that you would order from a catalog that came out in the mail every so often, competing directly against the general stores in each town of its day. It was incredibly successful. But then, over time, that business model began to fail. And what they did is they rebranded themselves, reorganized themselves from offering mail order goods to being a brick and mortar store, the form that we most recognize Sears as. However, the brick and mortar store has been a lot less successful over the past, say, 20 years with the rise of e-commerce. And Sears, from their heights decades ago, was forced to declare bankruptcy. General Electric, this was a company that dates back to Thomas Edison. It revolutionized the world with the ability to offer appliances for people's homes. They were creating these, usually one of the first firms to offer the new products. However, over time, they became too bloated with unrelated lines of products they were offering and buying new businesses, totally unrelated to the core of what General Electric used to be. Because of this, they were forced to sell off a lot of those lines, and their stock prices plummeted over the past 15 years from their heights. As consumer demands change and as new products are invented, firms are forced to adapt to survive. Cannot continue to offer the same types of goods over long periods of time. Other firms or entrepreneurs discover new ways, new products that can meet consumer needs better. So profit rewards those who are able to adapt, like Sears was able to back, going from mail order to brick and mortar stores. And losses force those who are not able to adapt out of the market, or forces them to change their ways. So losses are forcing Sears out of the market as the firm goes bankrupt. But General Electric, GE, as they're more commonly called, losses forcing them to adapt, to change their focus, to narrow it from all these different business lines to a more core focus on electronics and appliances. Profit and loss are the ways that a market encourages firms and entrepreneurs to best meet consumer needs. In a free market, the government does not restrict how firms produce and sell goods, and it doesn't restrict or tell firms how to employ the factors of production. All these numerous alternatives are left up to the firms to figure out the best way to meet consumer needs. However, for a free market to function, governments must provide a sound legal environment that will allow the market system to succeed. So one of the most important things they can do is protect private property. So if criminals can take your wages or your profits, households and firms will have little incentive to work hard. They'll spend more money on trying to keep what they have rather than trying to invest it, trying to spend it on other things. It takes away the focus from meeting consumer needs to just defending yourself and defending your property. Well, property rights are the rights of individuals or firms to have the exclusive use of their property, and this includes the right to buy or sell it. Also, included in the sound legal environment is the enforcement of contracts and of property rights. So if transactions are going to occur, especially across time, say like you take out a loan to purchase a house or to purchase a car, it's a transaction that goes across time. The ability to enforce a contract is very important. People will be very hesitant to lend money if they don't have a sound legal environment to ensure that the person they're lending that money to is going to pay them back later. So an independent court system is critical for this. Later on in the course, we'll discuss problems with the free market. But for right now, even in a free market, there is a requirement for government to provide some things in order to make sure the free market functions effectively.